If you're not taking full advantage of co-op funds available to you through key suppliers, you're likely leaving money on the table. Hi, everybody. I'm Rich Verva of Industrial Supply Magazine, and today's webinar will tell you all about how you can grow your business through effective use of co-op marketing funds. We hope to make this presentation as interactive as possible. You'll have some opportunities to participate in polls throughout the presentation. We'd also invite you to ask any questions you may have. Just use the question button on your control panel. You also could use the chat screen if you'd prefer to do that. We are recording today's session, which will last about an hour, but we will make the recording available to you along with the slide deck and some valuable links to material that we'll be covering during the webinar. We're joined today by leading experts in the field, including Tim Rasmussen, who has more than 30 years of marketing agency experience working with well-known brands like Chase, Procter & Gamble, and Schwann's. He's also an industry veteran who has managed millions in co-op marketing funds on the manufacturer side with ITW. Tim started Rivet MRO, a marketing research organization for independent MRO distributors, in 2016. The company has since grown to serve independent metalworking, safety, electrical, power bearings and transmission, plumbing, and building supply distributors. Kristen Foth is Marketing Communications Manager for ITW Pro Brands, an MRO chemical manufacturer of brands such as Scrubs, LPS, Dicom, and more, with product lines that range from disinfectants to general cleaners to lubricants and industrial markers. She's been with ITW Pro Brands for 20 years. Based on that picture, I'm guessing she started there when she was 10 or so. She spent a number of those years working toward building a meaningful co-op program that's mutually beneficial. Eric Wessinger is president and CEO of Richards Supply in Fort Worth, Texas, a family-owned distributor serving Central and North Texas manufacturers and general contractors since 1937. They have 3 locations offering 17 product categories available in store, through local delivery, and online. And finally, John Hayes is Vice President of AHB Tooling and Machinery in Roseville, Michigan, a Detroit area distributor that serves a variety of manufacturers. AHB is always looking at new technologies to offer as solutions to their customers, from water jet cutting in the early 2000s to the recent addition of additive manufacturing, also known as 3D printing, in various types of metals, using both binder jetting and binderless part processing. And now, with all those introductions aside, let's hand it over to Tim.
Thank you, Rich, and welcome everyone. Glad you could join us. Just a real quick overview of what we'll be going through today. We'll give you a bit of a commercial about Rivet MRO and who we are and what we do. Then we'll talk about things that you're probably most interested in, how much co-op money you might be leaving on the table and why those funds go unclaimed. And we can help you with a solution with that, our Co-Optimizer program. We'll also dive into some examples of co-op projects that I think everybody will be interested in. There's some pretty novel uses of co-op funds available to you. And then we'll spend the bulk of our time doing questions and answers with our panel, answering questions that you have about how you maximize funding, how to work with suppliers more effectively. You know, COVID kind of cast a shadow over everything, and we'll talk a little bit about using co-op in the light of the COVID-19 crisis and other things like how to track funds. And of course, we'll take your questions as they come in. So co-op can be a little confusing and a little awkward for everybody. And we're going to help you clarify co-op and put you in a position to take advantage of the funds that you've earned as a result of this webinar. And to help us in this process, we're going to be asking you questions throughout the presentation. So with that, Rich is going to be opening up a window for a poll. And our first question is, what percentage of available co-op funds for your distributor do you think you use? So you can choose 0%, 1 to 25, 26 to 50, 51 to 75, 76 to 100. I'll give you a moment to
we'll leave
look
it
on your
open
answers.
just a couple more seconds so people can have a chance to answer. All right, get your votes in now. I'm about to close the poll. Okay, time's up. Now let's share the results. Looks like the vast majority of people are answering the 76 to 100%, followed closely by 51 to 75%. Is everyone seeing those? Are you seeing those, Tim?
I just figured out how to do it, but maybe I need to put it on my screen since folks are. Can other people see it?
I'm seeing it on my screen, so I'm hoping that the viewers are seeing it on theirs as well.
Okay, I'll slide it over just in case. So yeah, I think the people have a pretty optimistic view of the amount of co-op they're claiming. Like you said, the largest percentage is the top quartile of 76 to 100%, and well over half of the people feel like they're getting half of the funds. So we're going to provide some information later on. We're going to ask you. We're going to reframe this question and see if maybe that changes. So quickly, just an overview of Rivet MRO. We are a marketing services firm focused exclusively on independent distributors. For us, MRO stands for Marketing Resources Organization. We started focusing on MRO distributors, but quickly, as Rich mentioned, moved into other areas within the industrial sector. Think of us as a smash-up between a consulting firm and an ad agency. So on the front end, we do strategy and planning services. And then on the back end, we do creative services like the video that you're watching, or brochures, sales promotions, etc. And we're probably best known for our Co-Optimizer program, which is the topic of this particular webinar. So Co-Optimizer is a proprietary process that we've developed to help independent distributors find and claim more co-op marketing funds. And simply put, we do all the work for you. We do the research, the planning, the execution, and the paperwork. And what happens is you get great marketing at no cost to you. Everything that we do is entirely supplier funded, so the net cost to the distributor is in fact zero. And we work with all kinds of independent distributors. You see some on here. You see our panelists from AHB and Richards on here, from small to large, and we're constantly working on a myriad of projects. And so the key is that we are focused on businesses just like yours, and there isn't a big learning curve for you, and you can spend your time focusing on your business because we already understand it. You don't have to teach us. We are service providers with AD and members of ISA and STAFTA. So with that, let's dive into the topic at hand and talk about how much money you're leaving on the table. So according to our poll, I think this group feels pretty good about the co-op monies that it's currently claiming. So we're going to share some information with you, and then we're going to ask you another question. So research shows that across all industries, not just the industrial space, but across all industries, food processing, automotive, everything, there's more than $70 billion in co-op funds offered every year by U.S. manufacturers. It's a stunning amount of money. Somewhere between 14 and 35 billion of those funds go unclaimed every year. And I would submit to you that in the independent distribution space, that those percentages are even higher. That's roughly 25 to 50%. I think those numbers are actually higher. And only 42% of businesses that qualify for co-op funds actually take advantage of them. So we have a full infographic that we'll share with you after this. And you may have already seen it as a part of the promotion, but there's a lot of unclaimed money out there. So the question is, what do we do about that? So we're going to do a quick exercise here where we take a look and try to give you a better idea of how much you might be leaving on the table. So I'm going to put in $10 million for this calculation. So most of you can take the $10 million number and extrapolate this for your business. So we have a calculator that we use to project how much we might be able to find for a particular customer. Generally speaking, the next box is really focusing on how much branded product you sell that isn't purchased through wholesalers. So typically that number is around 80%. but let's just to be safe, let's just take it down to 70%. And then we try to focus on supplier relationships that can provide the greatest return to our customers. So we look at the percentage of your revenue that's with suppliers where you spend $50,000 or more. And for most distributors, that number is somewhere around 80%. Again, just to be safe, we'll take it down to 70. And then, so this shows a range here because every mix of suppliers is different. But for a $10 million distributor, you should be getting somewhere in the neighborhood of $9,800 to $19,600 in co-op funds. So if we were to take these numbers back up to 80%, you can see how that modifies that number 12 to 25,000. And just to help you out a little bit, we'll go through some additional progression so you can see how much money you're going to be close to one of these. Here are the numbers for $20 million distributors. Here's the number for $30 million distributors. And I'll just do one at 50 to speed things up so you can get a feel. There are considerable co-op funds out there. So now, real quick, I'm going to ask you another question. And I think you're going to find that most of you are going to empathize with this video that you see right now.
I've already launched the poll, Tim.
That's fine.
So now we're asking, having heard that information, again, what percentage of available co-op funds for your distributorship do you use?
So now that you know the real numbers, and you know what the numbers are, maybe your numbers might be adjusted. We're interested in seeing how things change relative to that.
Just a couple of more seconds, and then we'll close it off. Get your answers in. All right, I'm going to close the poll. Okay. And now I will share the results.
So they did go down a little bit.
Not a lot.
Yeah. That's kind of surprising to me. I figured the numbers would probably drop a little bit more. So people on the call seem to be doing a pretty good job.
Or they're lying.
Can't imagine that. So there are a lot of reasons why co-op funds go unclaimed, but generally speaking, it is a bureaucratic hassle. Oftentimes, distributors aren't aware of the opportunity. So even if you take a look at the back at the poll numbers, if half of you getting half or above, that means half of you aren't. So there's still a substantial amount of unclaimed funds there. And many of part of the reason behind that is that distributors are often unaware of the opportunities. Suppliers don't always promote their co-op programs. So you have to ask, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Oftentimes the rules are confusing and there are inconsistent procedures and paperwork from supplier to supplier, and it becomes a bit of a red tape massacre. Brand compliance issues, paperwork, and time and resource limitations. Most independent distributors don't have huge staffs, and people are busy doing other things, so it's difficult for them to execute on pursuing co-op funds. So again, it's really about a time and resource issue. So with that, we're going to ask you another question. What are your biggest challenges or frustrations with claiming co-op? We pared it down to what we think are the top 5. So take a look here and let us know which is your biggest frustration. That you're unaware of the opportunity, the rules are confusing, procedures are inconsistent, claims process and paperwork is cumbersome, or you have time and resource limitations.
All right, just a few more seconds. And I'll be closing the poll. Yeah, the biggest problem in most people's cases is that they're simply unaware of the opportunity available to them.
Yeah, so it doesn't seem like people are confused by the rules or worried about inconsistent procedures, but there is a bureaucratic, influence, and then obviously bandwidth. Not too surprising there. Great. Well, thank you for answering those questions. So obviously we're missing a lot of opportunities, and Wayne Gretzky Stanley Cup Finals are going on right now, and Gretzky said you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And most independent distributors are not taking a lot of shots and therefore not scoring the goals that they could be scoring. So to give you a case in point with this, let's assume that you were able to identify $30,000 in co-op funds. And we're going to talk about the economic impact of those funds to your business. So the average independent distributor has a gross profit margin of somewhere in the neighborhood of 23%, and you'll net 3% in after-tax profit. Hopefully this audience is an exception and your numbers are substantially higher, but I'm going to guess that these numbers hit pretty close to home. So that means you would need to make a $1 million sale to earn $30,000 to spend on marketing, because those dollars translate to the bottom line as an expense. So my question to you as you consider this is, how much time and how many resources would you put toward a slam dunk $1 million sale? Because that's the net effect of finding $30,000 in co-op. So let me say that again. Finding $30,000 in co-op is like making $1 million sale in terms of the impact on your business. This gives you that kind of resource and capital to spend on the development and growth of your distributorship. So if we're going to basically hand you $1 million sale, you probably listen, right? So the question is then, what do you do with those funds? And using co-op marketing funds can double your sales. And let's be clear, we're not going to always double your sales, but they can. And we're going to show you some examples of that. But maybe it's just 18% or 11%. I'm guessing you're still interested. So with that, before we dive into that, I want to ask you a quick question. I want to get a feel for how this group uses the co-op funds that it currently claims. So in this poll, you can check all that apply. So promotional items, sales promotions, videos, catalogs, brochures, and sales spiffs. We limited to what we thought were the top 5. Again, you can vote for more than one. So Rich, do I need to slide that poll over so people can see it, or does everybody see it without me doing that?
I believe people should be able to see it because it stays on my screen. I'm going to be closing this poll, and then I'll share the results. Yeah,
it lines up pretty well with what I thought it would be. Promotional products are immensely popular among distributors, and they're probably the easiest to implement. It doesn't require a lot of expertise. It's simply a transactional purchase. You don't see as much with videos or with catalogs. They're a lot more complicated. Some brochures. And I'd be interested in learning more about what kinds of sales promotions people run, but we don't have time for that in this forum. So we'll talk about that. We'll give you some ideas on how you can use these. So with that, we're gonna dive in. We're gonna segue into some examples of co-op marketing that we've done together. And we work with Richard Supply in Fort Worth, and Eric Wessinger, the CEO and president, has been kind enough to join us for this webinar. So I thought I would let Eric explain this promotion that we did.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. I appreciate it, and thanks for having us participate. This is a promotion that we did through JPW and Jet, where basically we were introducing a new line for them. They had gotten into the air tool business, and we were partnering with them to help them take that to market within our territories. So we put together this promotion just based around quoting and opportunities for new business, where for any customer that we received an opportunity to quote on their air tool, the pneumatic business, then we would provide them with one of these Jet backpacks. And the promotion really took off. It was highly successful, and it allowed us to basically double our sales with Jet on a year-over-year basis. So that category has continued to be very, very lucrative for us. And then, so obviously Jet was really happy with that. And the long-term effect was, not only is it just within this category, but this promotion and partnering with them really helped us to improve our overall relationship with them. And so it was a really good kind of catalyst and a measuring stick that we've used against some of the other programs that we've done. But this was a highly successful one for us.
Talk about the relationship aspect of that. I think that's kind of fascinating. You know, we tend to look at things from a raw numerical standpoint, and there's certainly nothing wrong with the numbers, but you know, a positive supplier relationship means nothing but good things for the distributor, it would seem to me. Can you dimensionalize that a little bit more?
Sure. So I think just like everyone else on this call, we've got really good relationships with some suppliers, and we've got really ones that are lacking in maybe that deep kind of partnership level. And so our long-term relationship with JPW had always been more of a transactional relationship. We had some success on a couple of their product lines, but for the most part, it was a pretty surface level relationship. And so when we engaged them on this marketing campaign, it really gave us a chance to take that level, or take that relationship to more of a strategic level, where we partnered together to talk about what are our goals for the project, and what are our goals for the product line, and what are some competitive ways to go to market, and then how can we scratch each other's backs in terms of potential leads and end user work and on-site opportunities. So it took the relationship from just kind of a PO and an invoice relationship level into more of a strategic planning and partnership.
Awesome. You know, one of the cool things about this particular opportunity is this is one of those programs that you didn't even know existed. And so we found a relatively small amount of money, you know, $2,500 memory serves, something like that, for the initial promotion. And then you see the results there, and guess what? We had twice as much money to spend the next year.
That's correct. Yep.
So these things feed on themselves. Here's another one with Richards.
So yeah, this was another one that we did through Ames. This is we have a component of our business that's basically landscape and facility work, and so we sell Ames's rakes and shovels and those types of product categories. So this was a real simple. This program was a lot more, I would say, kind of cut and dry, but basically we just used this promotion through our website and some counter point of sale advertising and an email campaign. And so it was a successful one for us as well. It wasn't quite the results that the Jet promotion did, but we'll take double-digit increases across a product category. That's a good campaign for us.
Yeah, and I think you had $800 with this. I mean, so you
right.
Oftentimes people will say, well, that isn't even worth pursuing. Well, if you use it properly and you can grow your business double digits with that $800, then it's probably worth pursuing.
Yeah, that's a good return on investment for sure. So this was one of those programs, again, that we weren't even aware before we engaged through this process that Ames offered a co-op. And while that baseline dollar figure doesn't seem like very much, we were able to utilize it in a real positive way.
And lastly, this is a project that we're working on with you, Eric, that's just about to launch. And so this is kind of a new initiative for Richards, and it's a clickable safety catalog. So this is an interactive PDF. We'll share it briefly in a moment. But we commingled the co-op funds from a handful of different manufacturers. And so then this is easily updated if we wanted to add things to it. And as you'll see, there are links to e-commerce and supplier videos. And this will be posted on the Richards website. And this is saturated with keywords. So Google will index this. It'll see it residing on the Richards website. And all the copy in this catalog will count towards SEO. So one of the nice things about this, and especially as a COVID era marketing tool, this is a digital tool which you can work with remotely. But it can be used in field sales calls. It can be used on having the end user save it to their desktop or tablet, posting it in social media, of course, posting on your website, and sending out via email marketing campaigns.
Yeah, we're really excited about this. When it should be ready to launch real soon. It's again, after running these programs for a couple of years, you kind of get a little burnt out honestly, on promotional items and the types of other campaigns that we just looked at. So this was something for us. Obviously, safety is a huge category that we aggressively go after on a day-to-day basis, and we have full-time product specialists and all those things dedicated to this category. So this was a way to combine funds, again, from 6 or 7 different suppliers and put together a piece that we're really excited about from a growing the category standpoint. And again, this was highly engaged with those suppliers to pick which items we wanted to include, and then, you know, obviously get all the content and those types of things. So again, this was an opportunity for us to kind of take different relationships to a different level and really try to engage strategically with our supplier partners.
Yeah, and just from a mechanical standpoint, you can see here we have links to information that the reader can find on the Richards website. But you can also click on a logo and go to a page and actually click on the Buy Now button, and it will link to the Richards website where you can actually make that purchase. Or it'll link to a video that's on YouTube on the supplier's YouTube channel. So really versatile tool, easy to navigate. Just by clicking on a logo, you can go to that particular supplier's content. And again, all these words here you see are indexed by Google when it's posted on the website. So we're excited about this one too, Eric. So we also have with us John Hayes from AHB, and we're going to talk a little bit about a few projects we've done recently with AHB. And John, I'll let you take this one.
Yeah, thanks for the introduction there, Tim. So yeah, and when I saw this the other day, the first thing I said to Tim was, "Oh, it's a shame we didn't save the proof from how we used to do these calendars, because they were very crude at one point." But yeah, congratulations to everybody who is already using some of their marketing funds, because we were not using co-op funds really at all until we got linked up with Tim. But we put these calendars together. The vendors are more than happy to support them. And how Tim proposes it to them. The manufacturers cover the cost of producing the calendars. Love the fact that Tim actually came up with the idea of personalizing them. So the actual salesperson who's handing out the catalog, their information is actually handing out the calendar. Their information is actually on the calendar. So it's sitting there on the customer's desk. We find these desk blotters get kept on the customer's desk all year long. Even sometimes they're still sitting on another desk as a pad. Just for tools to sit on, things to sit there even after the year is over. So they've been just a great thing to keep our name in front of the customer all year long.
Yeah, so in the past you had kind of a generic plain Jane calendar, and you were spending your own dollars on it, not getting it paid for with co-op funds. And we were able to negotiate with a handful of your suppliers from year to year. We've got a pretty consistent core of suppliers that enjoy supporting this. And so we've been able to enhance the production value dramatically and to personalize them, and then ultimately reduce your costs, because instead of you paying it, it's now your suppliers paying it. And you have kind of a one-of-a-kind calendar that nobody else has. And we know that AHB loves the American flag, and so we always incorporate that into this, and that's something that you can always count on year to year. And I think your customers appreciate that too.
Yeah, the other thing that's come up, Tim, is you are actually getting those, whoever your source is on the calendars, you're getting a nicer calendar printed than the very rudimentary basic one that we had. And the price that your supplier is doing them for is less than we were paying for the very basic, just black. Maybe it had 2 colors, maybe blue and white and black or something like that on the original ones. So that's also, whatever your buying power is on the people you have contacts with, that's also going to help. So.
Okay, note to self: raise prices on AHB calendars for 2020. Did that go out?
I like it. Sound like a true salesman.
But calendars aren't all that we do for you. So we also have done quite a few videos for you. We do a lot of graphics animation videos. I realize people can't hear this, so you can see this. This is a video that Seco funded for AHB. So if you want to look online, you can certainly see the whole thing. But this is a graphics animation video, and there's flexible usage, much like the clickable catalog that we talked about for Richards. You can use it on your website. You can use it on social media, send it out via email, use it in the field. And it's one of the things about graphics animation video versus traditional video is it has a higher view to completion rate. It's a little bit more engaging. Let's face it, the stuff that we're selling, in the industrial sector isn't the most intriguing stuff visually. So this jazzes it up a little bit, creates something different, and captures people's attention. And the nice thing about it too is that it has a shorter perceived view time. Typically we do 60-second or 90-second videos, and if you ask somebody how long the video was, they would say 30 or 45 seconds. So that's another great use of co-op funds. We also do other videos. These are instant videos, and you've seen a few of them spliced in throughout this presentation, but we did a series of holiday videos, also sponsored by Seco. These are little 15-second clips, and they have some music behind it. This is the Halloween one. I chose that one since that's coming up. But videos are an SEO boost, and Google disproportionately rewards websites that have a lot of video content and frequent video updates. And the reason for that is that most website views, about 52% of website views, are now on tablets or on mobile devices. And so those devices prefer to consume video versus traditional text. And as a result, those companies that have websites that are optimized for mobile viewing and have regular video updates get indexed higher by Google. And as a result, this is one of the ways that you can work to get more more videos on your website. These are short 15-second videos that cost a few $100 each, and we're able to publish those on the AHB website and even kind of bury them a little bit. But Google says, hey, yep, another new video. So we try to fill them with keywords. They're double indexed, meaning that the voiceover and the on-screen words get indexed, and we take advantage of the Google priority for videos. And instant videos are a great way to get a lot of video very cost effectively onto your website. And moving on, I wanted to make sure that we engaged with Kristen Foth, who is with ITW Pro Brands. And this was a project we did for another client of ours, and realizing there is a mutual interest strategically in focusing on disinfecting and sanitizing. So Kristen, do you want to take us through this one a little bit?
Sure, Tim. So, as Tim had referenced, this whole effort here was really about strategic alignment. And myself as a manufacturer and having the responsibility for managing and overseeing the co-op program and the effectiveness that our co-op funds receive, it's really, really important from a supplier standpoint that we do have alignment with the messaging. And so this was just an example of A&M Industrial pointing out, hey, times are right, especially this was done during the early days of COVID. We carry a lot of your disinfectant products. Let's put together some messaging that really promotes that effort. And so, of course, we were all in. It aligned with what we were focusing on as a company. And so we had a lot of collateral and content that was readily available to be able to supply and support them. So, with the combined effort, I think it made a really effective promotion.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. So you can see the video playing in the background here. And we also developed a companion brochure that also was interactive, and we could link straight to the distributor website to facilitate purchase. And so this was a printed piece, but it was also a virtual brochure. And one of the things that we've seen trending is the popularity of the PDF brochure, simply because we're not always able to get in front of customers the way we used to. One last piece of show and tell, then we're going to open up for questions and answers. This is a little bit of a novel one that we did for a metalworking distributor on the West Coast, SL Fusco. And part of our process is to take a look at what expenses our clients have and how we can leverage them from a co-op standpoint. So, for example, with AHB, we saw that AHB was funding their own calendars, and we said, well, we can help that with co-op. In this case, we learned that SL Fusco had season tickets to the Los Angeles Dodgers and the Angels out in the LA area, and they gave those tickets to their customers. Well, some of the programs on here, specifically Kennametal and Dynabrade, are 50-50 programs. For those of you who aren't familiar with 50-50 programs, that simply means the manufacturer will pay half and they expect the distributor to pay half of the cost of the program. And many distributors choose not to participate in those programs. So we took a look at those and we said, well, let's use your Dodgers and Angels tickets, carve some of those out, repurpose them, and give them away as a part of this promotion. That will be your investment. So it's not a net new investment. It's money you're already spending. We're just repositioning how those funds are spent in some way. And much like the Jet Air Tool promotion that Eric took us through, if you quote one of these brands during the program promotion, every month we'll draw tickets to Dodgers and Angels games. And at the end of the year, or the end of the season, we'll put all the names back in a hat. We'll draw for a round trip spring training. And it was supported with notepads, and this is a little microfiber phone cleaner, the cell phone screen cleaner that you can peel and stick on the back of your phone, baseballs, hats, and t-shirts. And so it was a really good overarching promotion that was co-funded by multiple suppliers. And we got great feedback on that in terms of really great way to break into new accounts and give you something to talk about. So we've done enough talking right now. Hopefully this was of some value, but we thought what we would do at this point is really open it up to your questions. So Rich, if you want to take them through the process again on how to submit questions, and then we have a handful of initial questions that we'll go ahead and start with once you've done that.
Yeah, there should be a tab on your screen that says questions. Feel free to go ahead and just type your questions in there, or there's also a chat option as well. Either way, you can send in questions that way. To get started, why don't I just ask a couple of questions for the panel, just in general for the distributors. How do you make sure that you get all of the co-op funds that you've earned?
Rich, this is John Hayes. I'll jump in on this here. So we actually have a program now set up with Tim where we actually go through. I think is it at the end of the year, Tim, or maybe in January, where we go through and just identify what all is there and make sure that we're in there to get those funds, and we have a plan for using them for that coming year.
Right. I guess this applies to both you and Eric. You give us a spreadsheet with your 2019 purchases in January or February, and then we reach out to the suppliers and find out, what the co-op program looks like for that particular year, and validate how many co-op dollars that you've earned. So it's really a matter of staying in front of your manufacturer contacts. So there's the mechanical process of that, but there's also then, Eric, I think you may be able to talk to this, there's the relationship aspect of this too. So we need to make sure that we track things and make sure we follow up with folks, but engaging with them, like Jet has its benefits.
Well, sure. Anytime you can kind of work together to come up with a program or a promotion or a marketing piece, that's better for us. That's been our experience. But yeah, there's definitely some manufacturers that don't necessarily want to engage in that process, but we're happy to utilize their funds regardless, and take care of things on our own. But yeah, we're in the similar situation. We partner with Tim to make sure that we're taking advantage of all the dollars that are available to us.
We have a question from someone in the audience asking, do the distributors themselves produce the videos?
I'll jump in. No, we produce those. So we'll talk a little bit about our business model. We talked a little bit about it. It was pretty superficial, but ultimately with the co-optimizer program, we do all the research where we reach out to the suppliers, find out what funds are available, but then we put those funds to use. So we develop programs that we deliver with those funds. So we write and produce, do all the work for the storyboarding, scripting, voiceovers, animation. We produce the videos in collaboration with our clients. So, obviously, Eric and John, you've been involved in taking a look at things to make sure that the messaging is what you're looking for. So it doesn't happen in a vacuum. We try to take as much of that work off of our distributor clients' plates as possible.
That question came from Barry, who has a follow-up question. How does your fee get paid? Your meaning Rivet MRO.
So this is going to sound crazy. There is no fee. We do have a retainer that we ask for, but that gets credited back to the projects that we find for our customers. So simply put, we find money for you to spend with us. We do all the work to find the dollars, but we, in return, then you use those dollars with us, and there's profit built into each project, obviously, to fund our research and the development of the creative solution or the delivery of the promotional item. So the program has a net.
Robert is asking. Go ahead.
The program has a net zero cost to our customers. So I guess I'd ask Eric and John to illuminate that from their perspective.
Yeah, I can say, Tim, that's certainly true. We have hired, since then, we have actually hired you guys to do things that have nothing to do with any of our vendors, but that's a whole nother area of your business. But yeah, as far as the co-op things, those are things that you got the buying power you have with the people that you've got set up, and that's getting figured into the products that are coming in or the promotional work that's being done. You guys have even found, we had one vendor that was the local rep had said they didn't have anything for co-op yet. When you contacted their corporate office, they did have something, and then he came to us and said, how did you get my office to do this? They've never done this before. So I think it's a matter of reaching out and asking the question.
Thank you.
Keith has asked an interesting question, and probably either or both Eric and John could answer this as well. How much time does the distributor need to allocate, and who within the distributor typically gets involved in this work with Rivet?
Well, I can speak to Richard's real quick. So I run point on all of our marketing deals. So I'm the main point of contact here internally. I think Tim at the beginning of the year, but then I'll utilize our purchasing department when we need supplier contacts and any type and annual spend and those kind of things. So that just runs through our reporting software. So our purchasing department probably spends an hour a year on this program. I probably spend between my initial we kind of have a kickoff meeting at the end of every year where we start planning for the following year. That's probably usually about a 30-minute phone call. And then once we provide Tim and his team with the information, they do 95% of the work to engage with the suppliers and determine available funds. And then basically they come back to us with a presentation for each one of those suppliers and says, hey, here's what we think is an interesting promotion based on our kickoff conversation. And so that's another 30-minute phone call, and then we review the program. So the long answer to your question is, roughly, 3 to 4 hours a year, in all honesty, and it's mostly just phone calls and conversations with Tim internally. So that's my time. And then what I've learned over the years is that it's very beneficial to engage the sales team before that kickoff call to find out. If we're doing promotional items, which ones got really good feedback from the customers, which ones do we want to repeat the following year, and if there's any new products that we want to try to go with for the new year. So there's been many times where I think an item is a really great, promotional item that we want to share with our customers, and it kind of lands flat with our sales team. So by being able to engage them, we've been able to identify some products like pocket notebooks and pocket screwdrivers and these things that our customers really utilize on a day-to-day basis and ask for specifically when we have items for promotional stuff. So other than that, so we'll have a quick meeting with the sales force and then the quick meeting with purchasing. But other than that, that's pretty much our interaction from an internal standpoint.
Yeah, I guess I would say, in fairness, we've kind of got, this is our 4th year working together, so we've kind of got that down to a little bit of a science. I think early on you'd probably invest a little bit more time, but you know, our whole goal on this is to make this as touch-free as our customers want it. And as we get to know you and understand you, it becomes more touch-free.
That's true.
Yeah, Tim, I would say Eric really hit it right on the head with what he said. I know that some of our suppliers now know Tim, and they know you guys by name as an extension of AHB. So it's kind of funny, they refer to you by first name. Some of our suppliers do. So as obviously over time, your suppliers at the top are not changing that often. Usually you have a lot of the same people that are your top manufacturers. So it makes it fairly easy to not have to have new contacts every year.
So Tim, typically at the distributor level, then you're dealing with whoever is responsible for marketing mostly?
Yeah, well, it depends on the size of the distributorship. So, you know, a smaller distributor, I don't know how you define small, but, you know, we're working typically with an owner or someone who reports to the owner. For larger distributors that are, you know, $70 million and you know, above, $60 million and above, we might be dealing with a director of marketing or director of operations or somebody like that. But it varies. But typically, especially at the beginning, we need to have executive buy-in. They need to understand the program. We need to have access to you know, the key decision makers so that we fully understand the strategic direction of the distributorship.
I'd like to throw a question to Kristen to get her point of view as well. Typically, what are the concerns that you have in working with distributors? You know, what's an ideal distributor position for you to make sure that the solutions that you're going to come up with together, you know, are most beneficial? You know, for you to want to have them all their ducks in a row, what are the things that you are most concerned about?
It really, for me, Rich, comes down to communication and that true partnership with them, understanding that they really are interested in building a program that promotes my product line and not just looking for, you know, say a bunch of golf balls with my logo on them. It's really building more of a true partnership that is mutually beneficial, promotes the products that I know we want to focus on, that I have a high confidence level in being able to supply to them and supply to them easily. And, you know, just being consistent with the messaging that we want to carry out, you know, for our branding itself. So it's really about a lot of communication up front, building a true strategy and not just, you know, pulling together parts and pieces because, you know, there's a couple $1,000s laying here and there. It's really kind of what it comes down to. And that's where Tim's company has really helped, you know, bridge that gap, because as a manufacturer, I have a large sales team, and there's varying degrees of how that sales team wants to be able to support marketing efforts. Some of them, you know, are very capable in it. Some of them just want to stick to traditional sales. And so with that, you know, there's also the same hesitations that I think distributors have with co-op programs. They don't want to mess with the paperwork. They don't want to mess with the pre-approvals and all of that. And so Tim's company has really helped kind of bridge that gap that we've had with some of our distributors. And we've formed a lot stronger partnerships with our distributors overall.
Does Rivet get involved in submitting invoices that are required from the suppliers for reimbursement? Who handles that?
Yeah, so what we'll do is the way the money flows, typically some suppliers choose to pay us directly, but that's the exception rather than the rule. So think of it this way: the distributor plays the role of the bank in the process. So we will invoice our distributor, and then we will send a copy of that invoice along with whatever documentation is required to the supplier and ask them to reimburse the distributor. So they'll issue a credit, or some pay with checks. They pay, the distributor pays us, and the supplier pays them. And some suppliers go through AD, and you know there's a couple different variations on the model, but ultimately the distributor plays the role of the bank in the process.
And then Robert is asking a question, will Rivet help mine co-op funds that we might not be aware of?
Absolutely, that's one of our big value propositions. Chances are that, and we talked about this early on in the webinar, and perhaps you came in a little bit late, but I think that's one of the areas where we can really help, because we understand where the dollars are for the most part. And every time we sign a new account, we wind up getting exposed to a supplier that we haven't worked with before, and we learn something new. But after a while, we have a pretty good feel for where the funds are, and we can point our clients in the right direction and help them gain money that they've actually earned, but they just didn't know they earned it.
Right. Any of our panel members can answer this question, but when do you typically start the co-op planning process?
I'll speak for Richards. Is we will, it's all based on previous year spend. So Tim and I will typically have that kickoff call that I mentioned earlier. We'll usually have that in December, kind of mid-December, and just kind of talk about what's our plan for this year. So an example would be that clickable safety catalog was, during that kickoff call, we talked about not doing, buy this, get that types of promotions, and trying to come up with a different way of utilizing our funds. And so Tim had presented that catalog, and then so we usually kick that off, like I said, around mid-December. We'll have that planning meeting, and then once we have our annual spend from the previous year, I'll get that to Tim as soon as possible in January, and the process starts then with them reaching out and identifying available funds.
Yeah, I think beginning of the year is the optimal solution for the distributor, because A, it gives us the chance to be thoughtful, and B, it gives us a chance to tie in with the suppliers and integrate with their planning. And suppliers are more amenable to funding requests earlier in the year rather than later in the year. But that doesn't mean that we can't do things late in the year. I think John, I think with AHB, that was one of the things we started working with you mid-year, in our first year together, and Eric was probably pretty similar with you. And we still were able to find a lot. We might not find everything, but we can still find a lot. So even now, we can still help, but the process is ideally started in January or February.
We still found some, but we also you want to get in line early in the year for the funds. So that's another reason it makes sense to start up at the end of the year for initial discussion, get the numbers the first year. I think Eric again hit it right on nail right on the head. So
suppose there's a manufacturer that a distributor is already working with and is already maximizing the co-op funds. Would there be any advantage of getting involved with Rivet in something like that, or would you just suggest working with another supplier?
So I think the short answer is, could your team, the people that are working on those funds, it's still, trust me, it is a time-intensive process. Could they be doing something else to help you grow your business? So, if the answer to that is yes, then the answer to your question is yes. In other words, we can help you optimize your team and, remove something from their plate and help them, free them up to do things that can otherwise contribute to the bottom line. The other reason that you would want to consider that is just, the quality of the work that we do. You've gotten a small taste of that. You can certainly see more on our website, and I'd be happy to talk to anybody about that. But if you want to upgrade the quality of your work, I think that might be another reason to consider using us, even if you're getting every single dime of co-op money coming to you.
We're starting to run out of time, but I do want to get in a couple of more questions.
Okay.
Will the use of co-op funds change in light of the COVID-19 crisis, or have they changed?
Yeah, I think we're seeing some of that. We've alluded to this a little bit throughout the presentation, but suppliers are much more eager to fund digital initiatives, whether they be videos or the clickable catalogs, search engine optimization projects, things like that. that's really where the suppliers want to see that, because they realize that it's difficult to get in front of end users at this point.
And then how do you
trying to give you the short
track
answer.
and measure? Okay, how do you track and measure co-op program results? That's probably one of the areas where distributors sometimes fall down a little bit. It's hard to keep track of this, particularly if they're doing co-op programs with multiple manufacturers.
Yeah, I think it is hard. I think Eric is probably one of the best at that. I'll let him answer the question.
All right. So sometimes for us, it's just as simple as the revenue numbers. You know, like that jet promotion or jet campaign that we looked at earlier. That was very easy to track. And you know, as much as I think we have a really good program, I'll be honest with everyone that not every one of our campaigns lands. You know, we've had a number of the, you know, kind of buy this, get that kind of promotions that weren't as successful. And so we have to kind of look at that and say, and ask why. And typically it's more on our end than anything that we didn't present it in the right kind of way from a Salesforce standpoint. But a couple other ways that we track, you know, if we've done this year for our hydration partner with Squincher, we did a drawing for a large kind of Yeti style cooler. So we were able to track the number of entries into that. So that was, you know, just kind of a way, very simple way for us to kind of say, well, are we getting a lot of activity? Are we getting a lot of entries into that? And so that was a successful program for us. You know, we try to keep it as simple as possible. And so if it is a reward type promotion, is how quickly do we go through the product, right? If we're giving away a hat with every, you know, fan order, how quickly did we go through those hats? And so, you know, while we could probably be better at it, my recommendation would just be to keep it as simple as possible. Either look at it from a revenue standpoint, or just a velocity order velocity standpoint.
Yeah, I would think this is probably one of the bigger challenges that independent distributors face, and simply a manpower issue. It's very difficult to, you know, to divert somebody to do things like tracking those sorts of things, but it's time well spent, because it does apply to the planning process, and suppliers have more confidence when they know that you can measure results and report that back, and they're going to have more confidence in it and be willing to spend more if you do that.
I would assume that there can be great differences in how specific manufacturers structure their programs, and that adds another layer of complication to managing it as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, there's a myriad of ways the programs are structured, and things that are funded or aren't funded, and so it's a bit of a Rubik's Cube. So we have to take a look at what is the strategic intent of our client, what is the strategic intent of the supplier, what will the supplier fund, and how do we, you know, work for the highest common denominator there.
Let's end on this one last question, if we may, and then I'll let you summarize. But how do you get input from the sales team on how to use the co-op funds? Do you involve the sales team in the process?
Yeah, I'll let John and Eric answer that.
John, you want to take it?
Go ahead.
That's, yeah, no, as far as how we go in with the sales process, it's going to vary based on the sales force. I think you definitely want to include the sales force in any of the process. You don't want to give an open anything you want to do. Let's get all kinds of ideas, but I think you want to come up with a certain number of ideas and then have them kind of, you know, hone in on it from there.
Yeah, I agree with John.
If I understood what the question was, so.
Yeah, so for us, it's from a promotional standpoint, we'll kind of give them some options. You know, we'll say, hey, we're looking at doing a promotional project with supplier X, and here's 3 different things that we're looking at, or here's, you know, we're looking at these 3 different types of products. Which ones do you think your customers would be more interested in? And so we'll just try to get some loose feedback that way. and just kind of give them, we're the same way. We don't want to open it up to sky's the limit and tell us everything you want. We try to limit that between some different options, give them 1 or 2, maybe 3 at the max, and say, which one of these do you feel would be the most successful from a campaign standpoint? Which one would you be most, which ones are you excited to go push? Like, which ones would you be really eager to go sell your customers on? Which ones are fun, or which ones have the most influence? So
yeah, I think getting that sales team buy-in is important. I think when you include them in the planning process, even in a limited way, they feel listened to, they feel valued and heard, and we see greater engagement with sellers on different promotions that we do if they've been involved or at least informed early in the process.
Well, we promised to keep the webinar to an hour, so we're going to need to wrap things up now. And you can see we didn't even get to all the questions because we had a lot of audience participation, but that's great. You'll have some parting words for us, Tim?
Yeah, I'll try to go through this quickly. So first of all, we're going to be sending the slide deck out along with the recording of this. And throughout the slide deck, you're going to see some hyperlinks so that you can visit that link and get more information. So this is quickly a summary of how to help you maximize your co-op marketing. So track your contacts, keep that organized, because oftentimes distributors struggle with that. Give your sales team a voice in the process. Ask your suppliers for co-op program details and save them in a file. Involve the manufacturer in the planning process early in the year. And just don't assume because they don't have a formal program that doesn't mean there aren't dollars available. That's not the case. Be prepared to demonstrate how you're going to drive and track results. We talked about that. Demonstrate how you'll apply your co-op support to the strategic initiatives that are important to your suppliers. Then you'll probably get more investment. Develop a sound marketing positioning strategy and support that with your co-op funds. Ask about MDF funds if they don't have co-op. And don't let your internal resources drive your co-op planning strategy. Just because you don't have the resource, it doesn't mean that you can't do a video or an interactive PDF. There are other resources like us that can help you with that. And lastly, commit to the plan, invest in it, and test, measure, and refine. We're not going to hit home run every time, but we're going to learn something every time. And let's do more of what works and less of what doesn't. And then you can put yourself in a position to be successful with co-op. So the last takeaway is there's still time for you to claim the 2020 co-op funds that you've already earned. Obviously, the earlier you start, the more we can find for you. Here's our contact information. This will be emailed to you, but we would certainly welcome the chance to engage with the people on the call. And thank you all for your time and your interest. I hope this was of some value. And Rich, thank you for everything you've done to organize this. And of course, our esteemed panel, thank you so much.
Thanks again. Thanks again to our panel.
Rich. Thanks, Tim. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, and have a nice day.